Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Sanitation and diseases, and also we are going to talk about that how the sewage is disposed in different ways. We've already studied that in cities and urban areas there is sewage disposal system. We have the sewerage system and so many ways in which the sewage is dealt with. But there are some areas where there is no sewage, so we'll also talk about how in those areas do we deal with the sewage. First of all, let's talk about sanitation and disease. Whenever students we are talking about, or whenever we in a general society, whenever we are talking about a welfare society, a healthy society, we always talk about diseases and we talk about sanitation. Both of these things go hand in hand. If there is a place where there is no sanitation, what will happen that there would be breeding of microbes which might be harmful to us, and also certain insects and insects like mosquitoes and flies will breed on such places, which helps in the spread of disease. But that is why we say that sanitation and disease go hand in hand. Wherever the area is clean, it is any waste that is being produced is dealt with properly. In those areas we find that the occurrence of disease is quite low, right? So first of all, what happens is whenever we are talking about poor sanitation, one thing which affects the most is the water, right? Poor sanitation leads to contamination of water, right? Which leads to contamination of water, right? Which leads to waterborne diseases, right? So because of that what happens is waterborne diseases are seen. Now, when we are talking about contamination, it can occur through various things. First of all, there can be open drains, because of which this can take place. In open drains, when the sanitation is not there, right? Whenever there is an open drain, usually in the previous sessions also we saw that there was breeding of microbes, disease causing microbes, and also insects like flies and mosquitoes, right? So when we are talking about waterborne diseases and contamination of water, there is one particular way in which maximum problem is created. And what is that? That is improper ways of sewage disposal. And apart from that, in areas like our underdeveloped areas, we see that there are still no sewages, right? When, if you remember, when we were talking about the areas where there was, when we did the activity number 2, we mentioned that if there is no sewage, we should ask that how the sewage is being, or how the different wastewater is being treated, right? So in the underdeveloped area there are no sewages, right? There are no sewage facilities. Because of this, what happens is one of the major problems which arise from this is open defecation. Because of this open defecation, we see that diseases are increased. Now, open defecation usually occurs, a large fraction or large number of people in India, because we are, much of the population is in the rural areas, right? And they tend to defecate in open. And what are these open areas where they defecate? They usually go on in open areas or dry river beds, right? Dry river beds, or they go on the railway track, right? Railway track, open fields, right? They go on the open fields and so on. So what happens is when the human excreta and human feces is not dealt with properly, if it is not managed. Now, if you remember, when we were talking about wastewater treatment plant, we said that the foul waste was also treated by various ways. So if this human excreta is not managed properly, it is not cleaned up, right? What happens is this is a very dangerous health hazard. The reason for that is that many a times, this excreta, suppose there is the excreta on, dry river beds and it starts raining, right? So what will happen, this excreta will go on and it will mix with water and soil. So this causes what? This causes water and soil pollution. Now when the people are using this kind of water, right, when specifically they are using the water which is contaminated with the human excreta, what happens is that the waterborne diseases like cholera, right, typhoid, dysentery, and so many different diseases occurs, right? Typhoid, dysentery, right, and so many other waterborne diseases are seen. Also, many a times what happens is that this excreta goes into the underground level, right? So what happens, this excreta goes to the underground water, right? Now underground water also, what happens, comes up. Underground water is utilized with the help of tube wells and wells, right? Tube wells, wells, hand pumps, so many other ways. So this contaminated underground water comes up onto the surface through these methods, either by digging tube wells, or by putting a hand pump, so many different ways. So as you see, because of this excreta, the underground water has also been polluted. Again, when this water comes up to the surface and is being utilized by the people, again it increases the danger of the waterborne diseases, right? So that is why it is very important for all of us to even for the government even the government has recognized this problem and is working on it. In the previous session we talked about the mission Swachh Bharat, in which we had the government had made certain policies regarding the same, right? And nowadays the improvement is taking place, wherein the villagers are taking initiatives and making public toilets, right? So in this way we see how this particular sanitation problem is being solved, and also why is it important that we do not overlook this problem, because sanitation is something which leads to a healthy society, right? Now, here is a question which even you might wonder, and whenever we talk about alternate arrangements of waste disposal, this is something which is quite a curiosity for many people, and that is how sewage is disposed of in an aeroplane, right? So, whenever I'm pretty sure some of you must have had the experience of going into an aeroplane, and if you've gone to the toilet, you must have seen there is a difference between the toilet of the train and toilet of the aeroplane. So how do these two things differentiate? So usually in aeroplane there is a holding tank, right? So whatever human excreta is there in the aeroplane, it goes into a holding tank until the plane lands, right? Until the plane lands. Once the plane lands, what happens is that there is a service truck which is used. There is a service truck which is used to clean up this tank, right? This service truck, after cleaning up, after it pumps out all this excreta, it takes it to the wastewater processing area, right? Many a times this wastewater processing area is community area. That means this is something where, say, a service truck will take it to an area in the airport, from where it will go to the wastewater service processing area. So in this way we see how the excreta or sewage is disposed of in the aeroplane, right? Now further, let's talk about the alternate arrangement of sewage disposal. When we talk about alternate arrangement, we are not talking about the sewerage system, because sewerage system is a basic thing which we see in our houses, in our buildings, offices, schools, all of this. So sewerage system is something which is a very, you can say, common method. But alternative arrangement of sewage disposal is seen in area where you will not find a normal sewage system. These can be different areas. So how is it important? First of all, alternate arrangement is important because it improves the sanitation of the places where sewage system is not there. Apart from that, low or cost on-site sewage disposal systems are being encouraged. The examples are septic tanks, chemical toilets, right, composting pits. All of these are on the on-site low-cost areas. So what happens in these? Usually the septic tanks, for example, if we take septic tanks or chemical toilets or composting pits, all of these are low cost on site things. Some on-site disposal is where you do not have sewage, and on the spot the cleaning takes place, right? So septic tanks are useful for areas where there is no sewage system, and like for example, hospitals, right? It is good for hospitals. Then it is good for isolated buildings, right? isolated buildings Isolated buildings, or areas where there is a cluster of 4 to 5 houses. Remember students, cluster of 4 to 5 houses. Remember students, septic tanks and say the disposal system, this is your septic tanks, chemical toilets and composting pits, cannot take in this amount of sewage that is being produced by a whole city or a metropolitan or even a big society, right? All of these are on-site low cost because they are able to manage the lower amount of sewage, right? So remember that if you're thinking that okay, we can maybe replace the WWTP with the septic tanks or chemical toilets, that is not an option, right? So this is, always remember, alternative arrangement. Where there is no sewage system, there only we are using these things, right? For example, like we said, isolated areas and hospitals can use these kind of septic tanks or chemical toilets. Then some of the organizations also offer on-site human waste disposal technology, right? These toilets do not require a sewage system, or they do not require scavenging. So when I say scavenging, that means it is the removal. Scavenging is done when there is no sewage system. It is basically removal of sewage. Removal of sewage. Now remember students, how the removal of sewage is taking place. It can be through machines. For example, if you remember the aeroplane where there was a holding tank, and from that holding tank the sewage was being removed, so that is what we call as scavenging, right? So some of the organization, they have developed the human waste disposal technology without the use of scavenging, and it's a very good technology because scavenging again poses a problem for people, those who are involved in this particular, even though they are using machines, but this is quite unhygienic. Still there might be danger to their health. So this is one thing which has helped. Then what happens is, there is another forms where in this form what happens is, excreta will travel through the toilet seats. Excreta will travel through the toilet seats, and it will go directly into the biogas plant, right? Now this happens again through the, it happens again through your pipes, where the excreta will travel through the toilet seats, and it will travel of course through the pipes, and it goes to the biogas plants. Here the biogas is produced and it can be used as fuel, right? Here the biogas is produced and is used as fuel. So in this way you see how the alternative arrangements are being made where there is no sewage system. And again, remember students, it's quite beneficial for the area as well. Now even if you talk about this kind of method where the biogas is being produced, so you can see how important or how beneficial this method is overall. So there is no wastage, there is no scavenging involved, thus decreasing the risk factor, right? So this is all about the alternative arrangement of sewage disposal. Now next we talk about sanitation at public places. Now public places are the areas usually which are the most dirty, All of you must have gone to bus stations, must have gone to railway stations. You must have seen that people are actually throwing garbages here and there, thinking that this is not our home, this is not where we are supposed to clean. But always remember, students, the public places, because these are public places, so these are your places. So it is important to keep them clean, because you are also staying in these areas. You are also, suppose if you're going to the railway station, you're staying there for maybe a half an hour, maybe for a half an hour, but still you are coming in contact with the garbage that is being created. So that is why sanitation in public places is very important. uh, Now, in our country, a number of fairs are being organized. There are different kinds of fairs all over the country. It can be religious fairs, it can be trade fairs, it can be book fairs, and all of these areas, a number of people participate. And many people, they are coming in and they do not know how to, or they do not bother to think about the sanitation of those places. Other public places which you see this kind of unhygienic habits are railway stations, right? You always see these areas, railway stations, right? Then you will also see public places like your airports, right? Then you will see bus depots. All of these are your all of these are quite busy public places where a lot of lakhs of people come in and come out each and every day, right? So when a large number of people are coming in an area, they are commuting through these places, there is wastage that is produced on large levels. Now again, remember, this can be managed, and that's the reason why government has laid down certain standards of sanitation. Again, this, remember students, in the beginning also there were there were certain rules and regulations regarding all of keeping these areas clean, but after the Swachh Bharat mission, the government has made stricter rules in which they have seen to put, in especially in the railway stations and bus depots and even in the fairs, they have put a large amount of fine, and also certain laws are there to stop the people from throwing the garbage, and also they have made norms as to how the people can the garbage is to be disposed of, right? You must have seen in public places there have been put two garbages, that is the green color bin and the blue color bin, where you can segregate your garbage. If you have say paper packets, chips packets, biscuits packets, that you can throw in the blue garbage. So in this way, government has laid down certain standards, certain rules as to how the sanitation of such places have to be maintained. Apart from that, we also should be able to contribute in maintaining the sanitation. How we can do that? By using dustbins. Now remember students, when we were talking about wastewater, we also saw that any water which was running off the road, that also contributed into the wastewater. Now imagine that you've eaten a packet of chips and thrown it on the road, and sometime after, it started raining. What will happen? That rain will run off the road along with the chips packet and go into the drain, and thus going into the wastewater plant. And maybe there's not just one person, there are a number of people doing the same thing. So again, what is happening, that you are increasing the load of the wastewater treatment plant. So that is why we can contribute by not littering around, and what we can do is we can use dustbins. If suppose you are eating a chips packet and you do not see dustbin around you, you can take that packet along with you to your home and then throw it in the home, instead of throwing it here and there on any public place.